back to my channel. My name is Cynthia Alvarado and this is Powered by Little Minds. Today I wanted to talk to you about just self-reflect on this past year, school year. I was a first year teacher and I'm about to start my second year of teaching. And I just wanted to talk to you, self-reflect, what I thought, how I did, and what I can improve. And I also wanted to mention what I wish I knew. So I have my notes right here with me and I just want to talk to you about that. So first things first, I was very nervous at the beginning of last year. I was super excited to teach. I've always wanted to be a teacher ever since I can remember in kindergarten. I loved my kindergarten teacher. I loved my first grade teachers. I had 2 first grade teachers because I moved cities and schools. I remember every single teacher I've had. I have a pretty good memory of my childhood and my teachers and just having a good time, especially in elementary school. And it just had impacted me a lot, especially my teachers and my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher. They've had the biggest impact on me. And that's why I've wanted to teach the primary grades, K through 2 or K through 3. I love being around children, and I did my student teaching in 4th grade. And before that, I did what's called a senior practicum in a first grade class, but I was with them only twice a week for the whole day. And while I was student teaching, I did dual immersion, which means it was a Title I school as well, but it was a Model 1, which means they have the same teacher all day for dual immersion, but we just switched languages. So in the morning we would do in Spanish, and in the afternoon we'd do class in English. So we would teach reading, science, math, and social studies, and we would mostly teach reading, science, and math in Spanish, and then we teach them again in English, and then social studies in English as well. So I taught in English and Spanish and during student teaching, which is hard but also rewarding. I learned a lot of vocabulary, but just self-reflecting on this year, I learned a lot of things from college and from school that helped me right now while I'm teaching. I think something that I would love to improve is my classroom management. I was not very good. I knew they taught us to be consistent and make sure you're clear and explicit with your expectations and such and procedures. And I feel like I was at the beginning of the year, but I kind of let it go after a couple weeks. Or maybe a month. So that is something that I wish I would have kept going, is being consistent with my classroom management, my classroom procedures, my expectations, especially before lessons, going into the hallway, the bathrooms, just being consistent with that, with the rules, consequences. I really wish I advised that for first year teachers. Being consistent is key. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. If that's the consequences, follow through with that. That is something that is very important in the classroom. Another thing is communicating with your team. If your teachers have experience, don't be afraid to ask questions. I was a little, not embarrassed, but a little bit timid and scared to ask. But since you're a first year teacher, you're not going to know a lot of stuff. And make sure you're not afraid to ask questions. That's something that I also advise, and that's something that I reflected on, and I feel like I did a pretty good job on that. I still ask a lot of questions, to be honest, and even though I've already had my first year, this is my second year going in, I still have a lot of questions. I know I'm going to have more questions, and I know I can't be scared to ask, especially with whether it be your principal, your team lead, your mentors, your coaches, your fellow colleagues. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The custodian, don't be afraid to talk to him. The secretary, have a good relationship. That's something also that I advise. Have a very good relationship with the secretary in the school, because she is going to be your best friend, as well as the custodian. They basically run the school, especially the secretary. So become her best friend, or his best friend. Be super nice to them, get to know them, ask them questions, because they do a lot of things in the school. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Okay, classroom management, I talked about that, just being consistent. So one thing that happened to me at the end of the year is there was one student that was not so great with his behavior. So it's okay to talk to your coworkers about it. Make sure you don't talk in the faculty room though, and don't use names, especially if you're talking about a student. Don't use names. And don't be negative about your students because you never know who's listening. A parent could be walking by, a volunteer. Just be careful with what you're saying, especially if you're not in your classroom. But yeah, just be careful with that. But as I was saying, sorry, I got distracted. So classroom management, I think this happened because I wasn't consistent. So the student knew my buttons, and you just have to be consistent with it. Try not to get burnout. Talk to your teammates. Try different things. That's another thing that I advise. If something's not working, change it. So if it's your classroom management procedures, your classroom assigned seats, or your furniture, I changed my furniture around like 3 times during the year. I changed my tables, I did rows, I did table groups, I did different kinds of table groups. Change it if it's not working, or your lessons aren't working. If someone's not getting it, change it. Start over and try again. It's okay to try again. I've learned that to be flexible. That's something I advise as well. Be flexible. Things are going to change. My class roster right now is changing a lot, so it's not always going to stay the same. So you have to learn how to be flexible. Another thing, let's see my list. Okay, it's okay to ask questions. Okay, so on the first week of school, especially the first day, have more prepared than what you think. So have more activities prepared, have more worksheets or sharing time or something. Think of it as if you're going to finish it early and you're going to have extra time. So because you'd rather have more things prepared than not be prepared enough. So that's something that I advise, especially the first day of school. Another thing is, this is a big one. Okay, try not to take your work home with you. So I tried really hard not to bring my work home with me. If I knew I had to grade something, if I knew I had to make an assignment, make a worksheet, or print stuff out, make copies, or bring home something to grade or put in grades, do it at school, because you don't want, work is at work. You don't want to bring work home with you, because this is home. This is where you relax. This is where you have dinner, talk with your family, spend time with friends and stuff. You don't want to bring work home with you, and that just brings more stress and like more headaches. Try to keep it separate. That's something that I have learned. Okay, another thing is finding your teaching style. So I am still finding my teaching style, and I feel like it's constantly going to change because education is constantly changing, technology is constantly changing and updating and upgrading and whatever, and the children are constantly changing how they learn as well because technology is always changing. So finding your teaching style, I learned about whole brain teaching when I was student teaching. I love whole brain teaching. It has changed my classroom for the better. It's something it's kind of out of my comfort zone, which is also another tip. You have to be out of your comfort zone when you're being a teacher. I realize you have to be silly. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't really like to sing in front of my classroom, especially when it's just me singing, because I sound horrible. I'm a horrible singer. But they're children. They're 6 years old. It's okay. They don't care. They're silly. Be silly with them. You have to be silly. You want to make your classroom safe and inviting and positive and fun. So they know it's okay to make mistakes, and they understand that everybody makes mistakes and we can learn from others' mistakes. I make mistakes. I made mistakes all the time. And I would explain to my students, like, this is my first time being a teacher. You're my first class. And they understood that. And they understood that I made mistakes. So it's okay if they know that this is your first time. And this is their first time in first grade. We're learning together. So it's okay to find your teaching style. One thing that I do advise as well, another tip, is to go watch other teachers. If you know someone that is very good at math, doing math lessons, go watch them, see how they do that. If you know someone's very good with their procedures or classroom management, go watch how they do it. Ask your principal who's good with their classroom management or reading or guided reading or centers. Go watch those teachers, and trust me, you'll learn a lot. I've learned watching a lot of teachers. I always ask my team for advice or questions or what they're doing so I can try it. And You just gotta be open-minded, be willing to change, be flexible, be teachable. If someone comes in to observe you, your principal, they're not there to criticize you or judge you. And you can't be, don't be scared or intimidated when they come watch you. They're there to help you. And that's what I've learned as well. They're there to help you improve. And I love it when I get feedback because I know I'm not the best teacher. I want to be the best teacher. And I know this is my first time this is going to be my second year, but that was my first time being a teacher and I'm still learning. So don't be afraid when someone comes to observe you, or don't take it personally, or don't think they're criticizing you if they give you feedback, or they're just trying to help you improve and try to become better. So yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. I know this video kind of got long, but I'm so excited to share my ideas with you, and I hope this helped. Make sure you like and subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys soon. Bye. Also, don't mind my black fingers because my pen exploded on me today. Okay, have a good week, everyone. Bye.